My name is Calista Wynn, 34 years old. The doorbell rang just as the streamers sighed against the ceiling. That soft, papery sound balloons make when the room is a little too warm. Lily's blue dress swished at her knees as she twirled in the living room light. She had circled this date on the calendar herself, fat hearts in pink marker, then counted down out loud each morning like it might conjure the day faster. "Do you think they'll like the cake?" she whispered, breathless. "They'll love it," I said, even though I'd frosted it twice because the first layer slid left and the second decided to blister. The banner was slightly crooked. I left it that way. It felt honest. I opened the door to Angela first, heels ticking, perfume announcing, 3 kids fanning behind her like she brought her own wind. My parents trailed in with their coats clutched tight, scanning the room as if the decor were a test I might fail. "Happy birthday," I said, bright, measured. Mom's gaze flicked to the cake. "Oh, you baked." Not unkind, not kind. Angela looked around. "It's cozy." The word lingered, smoke without a fire alarm. Tori's laugh escaped before she could cover it. "Smells like chocolate," Dad said, and I could never tell if that meant approval or complaint. With him, it was always both, depending on the bill. Lily darted forward. "Hi, Grandma. Hi, Grandpa." She tugged Mom's sleeve for a hug that never fully landed. A pat. Then Mom drifted toward the table to inventory the sandwiches. Lily's smile thinned, quick as a paper cut, and she pretended not to notice. I poured juice. "Help yourselves." No one moved. 10 minutes stretched until the room felt crowded with things no one would say. Angela leaned toward Mom, tone, stage whisper casual. "We still going later?" The tiniest nod. Lily saw it. Of course she did. Children count blinks when adults think they're invisible. She reached for a cookie as if that might steer us back to normal. Mom stood, smoothed her jacket, adjusted her scarf. "We've got better things to do," she announced, not loud, just final. Angela rose, and her kids leapt like it was choreographed. "We shouldn't keep people waiting," she said lightly. "Told you this would be boring," one of them muttered. Chairs scraped, coats went on, the door thunked shut. Silence fell heavy enough to bend the streamers. The cake looked ridiculous. Center stage, untouched. Lily stayed frozen at the table, fingers twisted in her lap. "Mom," she whispered, "did I do something wrong?" It broke something that had been cracked for years. I knelt and pulled her in. "No, you did nothing wrong." She stared at the door as if willing it to open. It didn't. I held her until the tremor left her shoulders, then longer, because sometimes love is measured in extra minutes after the shaking stops. When she finally slept that night, lying very still, as if stillness guaranteed no one would leave again, I sat in the dim light of the living room and looked at the streamers. Every crease, every balloon knot, every imperfect corner glowed like a ledger of effort. And then the other ledger wrote itself in my head. Villa deposits, entertainers, chef tastings, top-ups for a mortgage that never seemed to shrink. I had funded their image like an offshore account. No applause required, just access. It hadn't started as duty. It started as longing. I grew up 2 years behind Angela, which is a century in the economy of attention. She sparkled without trying. I learned to build. She learned the script. I learned the code. At holidays, the spotlight found her without searching. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" was a hymn. I learned a different song. Spreadsheets, late nights, the gentle sacredness of not needing applause to work. Later, when I met Thomas, in the back row of a conference where the coffee was bad and the PowerPoints worse, he laughed at the same moments I did, eyes bright with a familiar hunger. We didn't save each other. We recognized the way the other person built life from the unglamorous parts. Ask my family, and you'll hear a different mythology. I married well. I got lucky. They revised history with each deposit. When we were broke, I was foolish. When we did well, it was all Thomas. Convenient. Entitlement eats through facts like termites in the wall. You only notice when the floor caves. Over the years, asks became expectations, and expectations became rules no one wrote down because they didn't have to. If I suggested simpler, I was cheap. If I hesitated, I was cruel. My value to them calcified into numbers with commas, not sentences with kindness. I thought I could pay my way into their warmth. You can't. You can only rent the room where they keep their performance, and rent is due at the worst moments. Tonight, Lily's question shifted the ground under all of it. I opened my laptop. For a moment, my hands hovered, shaking with the old reflex. Be the good one. Be the bank. Be the bridge that lets everyone else cross to where the party is. Then I clicked. Cancel monthly transfer. Withdraw villa deposit. Delete the reminder about Tori's party entertainer. Let her juggle on YouTube like everyone else. The silence in the room changed temperature. It wasn't empty. It was clean. The messages started with the son. Mom first. Calista, don't be dramatic. We'll talk later. Dad, mortgage is due. Just do the transfer. Angela went straight for the jugular. Tori's party is next week. You always pay for the entertainer. Don't let her down. The always did the heavy lifting. I put my phone face down. By day 2, their tone curdled. You're selfish. After everything we've done for you. Think you're too good for us now? By day 3, fear bled through. If we miss this payment, the bank will be on us. Don't ruin everything over a tantrum. The deposit is non-refundable. I sent one message. You walked out on Lily. Don't call me again. Then I blocked them. The quiet that followed wasn't peace yet, but it was the road toward it. 2 weeks later, the house filled with children who actually wanted to be here. No violinist hired to make it feel expensive. No balloon artist twisting guilt into poodles. Thomas set up a scavenger hunt that turned the yard into a map of secret joys. Lily raced and laughed again, arms thrown wide when she won, as if she'd conquered something larger than a game. On the counter, my phone lit with previews I refused to read. We passed paper crowns around, and no one judged the crooked banner. You'd think losing the bank would inspire humility. It inspired theater. Letters on floral stationery, Mom's handwriting so careful it trembled. You're tearing this family apart. Don't punish us for one mistake. We raised you. You owe us. The word owe pressed the page harder, as if she were trying to emboss it in my skull. Angela's emails skipped guilt, went for leverage. Everything you have came from Thomas. Stop pretending. Without him, you'd be nothing. The oldest trick, erase a woman's work by attributing it to the nearest man. I could have forwarded the tax returns, the formation papers, the nights I coded until my hands ached, but you can't audit someone into admitting they never saw you. Gossip moved faster than any courier. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years pinged me with concern shaped like accusation. Your mom says you abandoned them. The truth traveled anyway. They had left Lily's party because it wasn't grand enough for their appetites. Aunt Ruth called, voice shaking with a fury I'd only ever heard when she talked about being a nurse during the worst shortages. Did your mother really walk out on her granddaughter? Yes, I said. The silence after stretched long enough to hold 1,000 bad decisions. Unbelievable, she hissed. Poor Lily. And then, the lowest note in the symphony. Lily came home with an envelope clutched like a bruise. Grandma gave me this. Inside, glitter balloons on the front. Inside, looping script that smelled like manipulation. We love you very much. We only left because your mom ruined it. If she stops being difficult, we'll come back. My vision narrowed. They could take their shots at me. I had survived the invisible years. But tilting Lily's heart against her own home, that was warfare. Is it true? Lily asked, throat tight. Did you ruin it? I knelt and took her shoulders gently, felt the tremor there, the tiny animal fear of abandonment. No. They left because they didn't get what they wanted. That's not love. None of this is your fault, and it's not mine either. She nodded slowly, the way children nod when they want to trust the words. But the world has been unkind. That night I called my lawyer. I didn't slam a door. I signed a lock. A no-contact order would draw a line with ink they couldn't pretend not to see. As I hung up, the house hummed with the soft after-sounds of play, the scavenger hunt clues still taped under a windowsill, a paper crown discarded on the couch, frosting dried in a stubborn smear I'd need to soak. I looked at it all, the small evidence of a day that belonged to us, and felt the ache of what I had wanted for years loosen its hold. Approval is a currency that spends you. I was done being legal tender. Outside, the night settled. Somewhere across town, a calendar reminder was pinging for a mortgage payment that wouldn't be covered by me. I didn't know yet how quickly their facade would crack. I only knew that when the door had slammed at my daughter's party, another door, one I'd kept closed out of habit, had finally opened. I stepped through. The first morning after the no-contact order, the silence was deceptive. My phone screen glowed with unanswered texts, but the vibration stopped. That quiet was not peace. It was breath held before the next strike. Mom had always been an actress of fragility. Her voicemails now dripped with that same tremble she'd wielded since I was a child. "Calista, sweetheart, don't shut us out. I haven't been sleeping. My chest aches. I may need a doctor. Please don't make me do this alone." She knew exactly which chords to pluck, the ones tuned to my guilt. I deleted it before the string could snap. Dad's tactic was colder, like a man reciting an invoice. "Mortgage due by the 15th. Bank threatened to escalate last quarter. You know the consequences." No hello, no question. Just a due date. I imagined him sitting at the kitchen table, pen tapping, rehearsing the words like they were figures in a ledger. Angela, of course, went for blood. Her email subject line, "You've ruined everything." The body was a performance of indignation. "Your selfish tantrum is destroying our family. Tori's party is next week. How dare you punish children for your bitterness? They'll remember this forever, and it will be on you." The irony. Her kids remembered balloon arches and jugglers, not family warmth. I didn't answer. Instead, I bought balloons that cost $3 a pack, not $300, because Lily deserved a second birthday. 2 weeks later, our small house echoed with sounds I hadn't heard in years. Unrestrained giggles, thundering footsteps on hardwood, shrieks from a scavenger hunt Thomas designed, with ridiculous clues that had kids crawling under the table and shouting when they found stickers taped beneath chairs. I caught myself laughing with them, belly deep, until my ribs ached. Lily's face glowed brighter than the candles I relit on the cake. When she won the scavenger hunt, she threw her arms wide, eyes sparkling like she had conquered a kingdom. "Best party ever!" she shouted, and the room agreed. No one checked a watch. No one whispered about leaving early. On the counter, my phone buzzed, screen lighting with preview texts. "We can't cover this month's mortgage. The villa deposit is lost. How could you do this to us?" I turned it face down. For once, I didn't flinch. But silence in my family never lasts. It started with letters, cream stationery, Mom's script careful and practiced. The words themselves were poison wrapped in politeness. "Nancy, you're tearing us apart. Don't punish us for one mistake. We raised you. You owe us." The word owe was underlined twice. If passive aggression were currency, Mom would have been wealthy without my transfers. Angela skipped the performance. She fired emails like darts. "Without Thomas, you'd be nothing. He made you. Stop pretending." She clung to the story that my success was borrowed, because admitting otherwise would make her reflection unbearable. And then, the family gossip machine ignited. Cousins messaged on Facebook, polite but pointed. "Your mom says you've abandoned them after all they did for you. Is it true?" I never had to defend myself. The truth leaked faster than their lies. Aunt Ruth called one evening, her voice tight with disbelief. "Calista, tell me straight. Did your mother really walk out of Lily's birthday?" "Yes." The pause on the line lasted forever. Unbelievable. Poor child. Her voice cracked, like something inside her had finally broken. "What kind of grandmother does that?" Her outrage spread. Whispers at potlucks, murmurs at reunions, cousins choosing sides. For the first time, sympathy tilted my way. I didn't feed it. I didn't have to. Relatives carried the story like wildfire, each retelling stripping away the image my parents had curated for decades. But my family never recognized when the tide was turning. The unraveling began at dinner tables they no longer controlled. Angela fought with Mom at a restaurant, loud enough that a waiter later told Ruth the details. Angela blamed Mom for pushing Calista too far. Mom shot back that Angela had always been careless, spoiled. Dad tried to smooth things over, but his voice rose too. A glass of wine shattered on the floor. Their fight was no longer private, their facade cracked in public. Meanwhile, Angela's kids sulked to anyone who would listen. "Why don't we have big parties anymore?" Tori whined. "Why can't we go on vacation?" Brandon muttered. Joshua blamed me outright. Aunt Calista ruined everything. They didn't yet understand the math. Their glitter was built on my silence. And then the lowest blow landed. One afternoon, Lily walked in from school pale, clutching an envelope like it burned. "Mom," she whispered, "Grandma gave me this." Inside, a card with balloons on the cover. Glitter clung to my fingers as I opened it. Mom's looping handwriting filled the page. "Dear Lily, we love you so much. We only left your party because your mom ruined it. If she stops being difficult, we'll come back. Love, Grandma and Grandpa." The words blurred red. They had always aimed at me. But this was shrapnel aimed at my child. Lily's lip trembled. "Is it true? Did you ruin it?" I knelt, taking her shoulders. "No. They left because they didn't get what they wanted. That's not your fault, and it's not mine. That's not love." She nodded, slow and shaky. "Children want to believe you, but betrayal taught too young is a scar you can't erase." That night, I called my lawyer. The no-contact order became real. Black ink on white paper sealing doors I once thought would always stay ajar. They would never hand Lily poisoned letters again. But part of me still knew my family wasn't finished. Desperation makes people sloppy, and I could feel it in my bones. They weren't just angry, they were afraid. Because beneath the venom of their messages was a truth I hadn't dared name yet. They were collapsing without me, and they knew it. The envelope with the court seal arrived on a Tuesday. I slid it across the table to Thomas while Lily colored beside us, humming to herself as if the world hadn't tilted. "It's official," I said, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. The judge's stamp meant Mom and Dad were barred from contacting Lily. No letters slipped into backpacks, no surprise appearances outside school. Thomas scanned the pages, jaw tightening. About time. He didn't say what we were both thinking. It should never have come to this. That night, I sat in bed staring at the ceiling. The ache wasn't relief. It was grief twisted with guilt. Who files legal papers against their own parents? But then I remembered Lily's pale face, her small fingers trembling around that letter. And guilt turned into something colder, sharper. Protection. Word spread fast. My family had always been masterful at turning gossip into narrative, but this one they couldn't polish. Aunt Ruth called again, furious. "Your mom was crying at church, said you banned her from seeing her granddaughter." "She manipulated Lily," I said flatly. "Would you forgive that?" Silence, then a sigh. "No, I wouldn't." Still, I could picture Mom's performance at the luncheon, eyes glistening, hand pressed to her chest, voice pitched just enough to draw sympathy. She had always known how to weaponize weakness. I used to fall for it, not anymore. And yet, there was fallout I hadn't planned for. Lily came home one afternoon with a drawing, our house, small but steady, surrounded by stick figure friends. In the corner, 2 tall figures stood outside a gate, faces drawn with X's. "That's Grandma and Grandpa," she explained quietly. My throat closed. She was building her own boundaries faster than I ever had. Meanwhile, my parents' world cracked in public. At a local diner, they erupted mid-meal. Ruth relayed the scene in hushed disbelief. Mom shouting that Angela had ruined everything. Angela snapping back that Mom was pathetic. Dad pounding the table like numbers alone could fix betrayal. A wine glass shattered. Waiters froze. The story circled town like wildfire. The perfect family image they'd paraded for decades was ash. Angela's life unraveled fastest. She had built her identity on appearances, lavish birthdays, vacations that glittered on social media, kids bragging at school about villas and entertainers. Now, stripped of the subsidies, she faced the raw truth. Her eldest, Tori, sulked through halls muttering, "Why can't we have parties anymore?" Brandon complained loudly, "We never do anything fun." Joshua whispered to cousins, "Aunt Calista ruined it all." Children repeated what they heard at home. I knew whose script they were quoting. But the bigger cracks came quietly. Dad, ever pragmatic, began calling distant relatives, asking for short-term loans. I heard about it from a cousin in disbelief. He said you'd cover it eventually, that you just needed time to calm down. My stomach clenched. He was trading on my reputation like collateral, leveraging me without consent. It wasn't just manipulation, it was fraud in spirit. When I didn't budge, the consequences hit. The house, my childhood home, the one with faded wallpaper and uneven floors I once traced with tiny feet, slipped into foreclosure. They lost it. I thought I'd feel triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. That house had been cruel to me, yes, walls that echoed with favoritism, rooms where my laughter never quite belonged. But it had also held Christmas mornings, secret midnight reading under covers, the smell of Dad's coffee when I studied for finals. Losing it meant losing the possibility that one day it could be redeemed. Angela called once more before the line went dead under the order. Her voice was ragged, not furious this time, but almost broken. "You think you've won? You think Lily will thank you for cutting her off from family? She'll hate you for this one day." I nearly answered, nearly defended, nearly explained. But I remembered Lily's drawing, the X's she had drawn herself. She already knew who stood outside her gate. And then came the voicemail from Mom, the one that curdled my blood. Her voice was thin, whispering like a confession. "I'll make this right, Calista. You'll see. I'll fix it." I replayed it 3 times, listening for meaning in the spaces between words. Fix what? Apologize? Or something darker? Sabotage? Revenge? With Mom, contrition and cunning were indistinguishable. That night, I double-checked the locks on the doors, kissed Lily's forehead longer than usual, and lay awake staring at the ceiling. The legal walls were in place, but walls only work if no one finds a way to climb them. And I could feel it. The story wasn't over. Not yet. The day my parents' house went dark, a relative texted me a photo. The windows, once glowing with holiday lights and birthday banners, now stared hollow at the street. A foreclosure sign leaned crooked in the yard. That house had always been a theater, but seeing the curtain dropped left me unsteady. Within a week, they were crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, the kind of place Mom used to sneer at when we drove past, calling it temporary housing for people who couldn't get their lives together. Irony is cruel like that. Angela was livid, her voice ricocheting through every cousin's phone line. "This is your fault, Calista. They lost their house because of you." She clung to her anger because admitting the truth, that years of entitlement had drained them dry, would mean facing herself. Her children echoed her bitterness. Tori sobbed about her birthday being just pizza. Brandon rolled his eyes at the cramped apartment. Joshua muttered to anyone who'd listen that I'd destroyed their family. The chorus of blame tried to drown me, but I no longer lent them my ears. Still, temptation lingered. One night, Ruth called with a proposition. "Your dad asked if you'd co-sign a lease for them, just until they get back on their feet. You wouldn't have to pay anything. They only need your name. It would stabilize things." Her voice was hopeful, almost pleading, as though she wanted to believe in a version of me that still bent. For a heartbeat, I imagined it, smoothing their chaos with a signature, quieting the gossip, silencing the ache of being the cruel daughter. But then I remembered the letter handed to Lily, glitter pressing into her fingers like thorns. I remembered the nights I stayed awake replaying her whisper. Did I do something wrong? Signing anything now would teach Lily the wrong lesson. That betrayal comes without consequence. That boundaries bend when guilt pushes hard enough. "I can't," I told Ruth softly. "Not this time." She sighed, disappointed but understanding. "I thought you'd say that. They'll hate you for it, you know." "They already do," I said. And strangely, the words didn't sting anymore. The reckoning came quieter than expected. One evening, I met Mom in a coffee shop at her request. She arrived small, scarf wrapped tight, eyes ringed with fatigue. For a moment, I saw not the manipulator, but a woman cracked open by her own choices. She stirred her drink slowly, spoon clinking against porcelain. "You were always different," she whispered. "Angela made people smile. You made people think. I didn't know how to love that. How to." Her honesty, partial, imperfect, cut deeper than her insults ever had. It wasn't an apology. It was an admission. Fear had shaped her favoritism. Fear that if she didn't cling to the shining one, the world would see her family as less. She chose image over truth, sparkle over substance. And in doing so, she taught me that approval must be bought. I left that meeting hollow, but also clear-eyed. She hadn't changed. She had confessed. And confession doesn't undo a crime. Weeks later, the final revelation surfaced. Ruth discovered that the letter given to Lily, the one dripping with poison, hadn't been written by Mom alone. Angela had dictated parts of it, pressing Dad to slip it into Lily's hands at school pickup. My parents had agreed, their signatures invisible, but present in every word. The betrayal deepened, but it also clarified. There was no golden child, no scapegoat, no innocent. Just adults who had turned family into theater and expected me to keep funding the tickets. So I redrew the lines, not with revenge, but with resolve. I told Mom and Dad, through Ruth, That if they wanted a path back, it wouldn't be through money. It would be through accountability, therapy, honesty, rebuilding trust brick by brick. Angela would have to face her children without the glitter of my wallet. They laughed it off at first, but when no rescue came, they stopped laughing. Meanwhile, Lily blossomed. She slept soundly now, no longer listening for footsteps leaving. She filled notebooks with drawings of houses, not mansions, not villas, just warm homes with stick-figure families inside, smiling. She told me one night as she curled against me, "Mom, our house feels safe." That sentence was the inheritance I wanted to leave her, not stock portfolios or lavish trips. Safety, truth, love that wasn't bought. Thomas and I built quietly, expanding the business, but without the weight of their demands, my success finally felt like mine. No disclaimers, no asterisks. As for my parents and Angela, they carried on in their small apartment, fighting louder than ever. Their polished image was gone, and the gossip they once weaponized turned on them. The family throne they guarded so fiercely had collapsed, leaving only folding chairs and echoes. And me? I finally understood that walking away hadn't made me heartless. It had made me whole. Because if family means teaching my daughter she must earn love with sacrifice, then she is better off without it. The door slammed at Lily's party, but it opened to something far better, a life where belonging isn't bought and love isn't a ledger.